Hello everyone, Martin Lena here from Orange Technology, and I'm actually doing this video for the third time. This is the third take on this video. The first time I actually had a phone call halfway through. For those of you who don't know, I use my smartphone to take these videos. That's why I've got the earpiece and the microphone. And I got a video a phone call from a client that I had to answer, so I just stopped the video. So I started again after I was done with that phone call. And then I'm recording this on a Saturday, so my office is closed. But I'm parked in front of my office, and I on the weekends I park right in front of the door because the mall is basically closed. The mall is security patrolled. So by the landlord. So I have one office that I own and one office that I lease. I acquired the leased office when I acquired my largest competitor in the industry. I talked about this in some of my videos. I own an MSP, an IT services provider, Orange Technology. And I acquired my largest competitor in the industry about a year ago, literally about a year ago. And part of the deal of that is I had to assume his lease that he had in the mall. So I have two office locations, one that I own and this leased one. And so this is in a mall, and I'm doing these videos on the weekend. So I'm parked in front of my suite in the mall. And again, the mall in general is closed on the weekend. So the landlord has a security patrol that goes around every day and does sweeps just outside and stuff like that, protection of stuff, whatever. And he knocked on the door. So I was doing this video a second time, and he knocked on the door, was looking in the door because he's wondering about this car, right? Is this car an issue that he has to deal with? So I had to stop and run out and tell him, yeah, that's my car. Don't worry about it. So yeah. Third take on this video. It's actually gonna be a little bit of a shorter video. And it's just something I want to touch on that I find a lot of IT people, a lot of technology professionals, especially managed service providers, IT service providers, they don't deal with very often. And that's physically keeping hardware clean. Okay. It's funny because it's not a technology task. It's not managing a server. It's not dealing with a firewall. It's not, dealing with hackers and things like that. But it's a very important part of technology and being an IT professional. And it's basically keeping hardware clean. So for those of you who don't know, I own Orange Technology. We operate here in Whitehorse in the Yukon. The Yukon is in northern Canada. Whitehorse is the city, the capital city that I'm in. We're basically, for those of you who don't know where that is, we're basically on the Canadian side of Alaska. Okay, so we're pretty far up north. It gets kind of cold in the winters. But something we deal with, especially here, is the Yukon has a lot of clay. Okay, so a lot of the ground is clay based. What happens with clay? A lot of dust, right? Especially in the summertime. We do get very warm up here. We get into the 80s and 90s. For those of you who are in the U.S. Fahrenheit, so that's the mid 20s, approaching 30 degrees Celsius. It goes the other way in the winter. I have seen like minus 45 Fahrenheit. It's cold. But so when it's really warm, what happens is, of course, we have a lot of dust, right? Cars are driving, people are driving ATVs, or going out to the bush, whatever, right? Wind, we have wind, and it picks up the dust or the clay off the ground, stuff like that. So there's a lot of dust here, okay? And what I have found is a lot of the time, pretty much universally, any other IT service provider I've seen, if they're deploying equipment, they're deploying switches, servers, racks, whatever, right? They deploy this stuff. It's all brand new, it looks great, looks clean, it looks awesome, blinky lights everywhere. And then if you go in about a year later, 2 years later, 3 years later, everything's covered in dust. Everything's dirty, everything's clogged, everything has sand on it. I see this constantly. I went into a client about probably 3 years ago now. They were doing an overhaul of their point of sale system. They needed a new server, all this stuff. They had a previous IT services provider deploy the old system, which was a number of years old. actually probably no more, 5 or 6 years old. And they were upgrading to a new system, right? So they had this old. If you watched last few videos, if you watched last few videos, you notice I've been scratching my nose a lot. I got bit by a number of mosquitoes. It's so itchy. I can't stop. I'm really bad for mosquito bites. I will scratch and scratch and scratch. So, just so you know, there's nothing wrong with me or anything. It is a mosquito bite. Anyways, they had this old system, and this old system, I kid you not, had almost an inch of dirt and dust on it. The fans were all clogged. It was an old, a very old IBM. I'm pretty sure it was an IBM server, and like it was a desktop server, so it was a tower. And the fan holes on the back for the power supply, and then the case fan, literally clogged. There was no air movement going on. Again, the server wasn't using 100% CPU usage and stuff like that, so it still ran. But I mean, that's not good, right? That's not good when you have servers that are like that, right? I mean, that's bad practice. But again, this is one of these things, right? So these IT services providers, these previous IT service provider, and I mean, I've seen this with on-premise IT staff for an organization. I've seen this time and time again from technology professionals as a whole. Doesn't matter if you're an MSP, an IT services provider, one-man show, IT employee, whatever. People don't think about cleaning the equipment, right? Cleaning things out. They don't do that. For my clients, I schedule cleaning, right? I schedule cleaning. Hey, the server's going to be offline for an hour while we clean it out. And, you know, me or my staff, one of my staff members, will take the thing apart, or they'll take the lid off. You know, let's say it's a rack server, they'll take the lid off, and they will clean it all out with compressed air. They will clean it all out. They will ensure all the fans are spinning. They will check to make sure there's no failures or something's not spinning right or slow or whatever. And then they'll boot that thing back up, and they'll have a look, make sure everything's running right, and there you go, right? But we schedule these things. We schedule maintenance, physical maintenance of equipment. And this is something a lot of people don't do, right? A lot of technology professionals, they don't think about the physical maintenance. They just leave it. They set it and leave it. And I mean, you know what? Yeah, you know what? This server kept running. This old server for this particular client that I was talking about, it kept running. It didn't have an issue. It was going. Yeah, fine, whatever, right? But I mean, it's not a good practice. It's why are you ignoring something that you should be maintaining? Why are you ignoring it? And I would argue the majority of the time when I've asked why it's been ignored, people just go, "Oh, yeah, I didn't really think about that. It's not a really big deal. I mean, the server's running. It's on the network." I'm like, okay, well, one, it may physically fail sooner, so then your server's not on the network anymore. And two, do you think your job is only about adding users to Active Directory? Is that your only job, right? You're hired, whether you're an employee, third party, whatever, you're hired to manage technology, right? You're hired to deal with technology and make sure it works. There's nothing in there that says you're hired only to deal with Active Directory, or you're only hired to deal with cybersecurity, or you're only hired to deal with backups, right? Okay, maybe you are. As an MSP, maybe you're brought in for a very specific task and only one specific task. That's possible, right? If you're a software vendor, maybe you're brought in only to deploy software. It's not your job to clean systems. I get that, right? But I mean, if you are an overall technology professional, if you are working in IT, again, whether you're an employee, managed service provider, IT service provider, one-man show, whatever, if you are hired and paid to manage technology, that's part of technology. Cleaning a system is part of technology. Keeping it in optimal running condition is part of technology, right? And so many people just think, well, that's not my job. Like, that's hardware cleaning. It's not cool. That's not fun. I want to do cybersecurity. And it's like, well, yeah, that's great if you want to, you know, specialize or get really good at something niche like cybersecurity. That's great. But okay, like hardware maintenance is still important. Keeping things clean is still important, especially if you live in an area like where I am, where it's dusty, where it's dirty, where things will accumulate dirt and dust and all that stuff faster than elsewhere. Okay, you know what? If you're in, I'm trying to think here, where you wouldn't get that kind of a very clean environment. If you're in Seattle, maybe if you're in Seattle, you're by the ocean. You always have ocean wind. Hey, actually, you know what? Rust is something you got to worry about in Seattle, actually. But you probably don't need to deal with the dust of a desert like in Arizona or something, right? It's not the same thing. But that doesn't mean that you ignore hardware maintenance completely, right? You shouldn't do that. You should still be dealing with hardware, with dealing with keeping that maintained. You should be scheduling that kind of thing. And so many people, again, I have not met an MSP or IT services provider, or quite frankly, even an IT employee employed somewhere, who has physically cleaned equipment regularly. Right? Maybe they cleaned it because they had to get access to it and they literally couldn't find the screw holes. That's how bad some of this stuff is, right? Maybe there's that. But I have, in general, never seen or never met an IT services professional, a technology professional, whether they're an IT services, a third party, or an MSP, or an on-premise employee, who regularly cared about maintaining hardware. I haven't met one. I have met some management staff who understand that is important. Doesn't mean it was getting done though. But I have met some management staff who did believe that was important to do. So that's good. But quite frankly, most management staff don't think about that actually. So yeah, that's really something. I mean, that's personally irks me every time I go into a new client and I see this, and I just see dirt and dust, and there's just no need for it. There's no need for it. I mean, I'm not saying you've got to, go and clean your systems every 2 days. I'm not suggesting that. Something that's reasonable for the buildup of dirt and dust and things like that, depending where you live, is fine, right? I mean, be reasonable about it, obviously. But again, it is something you need to think about. And so many people don't think about it. They literally think their role as a technology professional is Active Directory and, firewalls and things like that. And they don't think about everything else, right? Everything else that exists. Physical maintenance, physical security. Can somebody physically steal your server? Or is it locked up? Regulatory environment. So many technology professionals don't even know there is a regulatory environment, right? Where do you physically keep your data? Where, have you compartmentalized access to your data, for example, in the medical field, right? Can a scheduling clerk be able to see patient notes from a doctor? Do they need to in order to be able to do their scheduling job, right? Like these are things that you need to think about as a technology professional. You need to think about everything, not just Active Directory and firewall and literally, okay, I can see the Active Directory. Yeah, everything looks fine on it. Yeah, no, there's no problems. I checked it again. Meanwhile over here, there's no backups running on that Active Directory server. So when it dies, all that data is gone, right? And these are just, it's so frustrating. It's so frustrating. If you watch some of my other videos, I say that often. And I keep bringing up a new topic to talk about, and I just end up saying the same thing. It's so frustrating. Because it is. It honestly is. So yeah, like I said, this is a shorter video. I just want to talk about the importance of physical hardware maintenance. Make sure you're dealing with that. Make sure you're looking at that. And yeah, so again, like I said in the last video, if you guys have any specific questions or something I want to talk about, below this video, you'll see an email address you can send email to me at, and I will definitely talk about it. And yeah, I will see you guys next time.